Somewhere in the Central American forest, it is the first half of the 16th century. Before being impaled on a hanging limb covered in spikes by a tripwire trap, a tapir races wildly through the jungle. The tapir is put out of its agony by young Jaguar Paw, Rudy Youngblood, who then happily shares its internal organs with his fellow hunters Curl-Nose, Amilcar Ramrez, Smoke Frog, Israel Contreras, and Cocoa Leaf, Israel Rowe. Since he and his wife don't yet have any children, Blunted, Jonathan Brewer, gets the tapir's testicles as a joke. Jaguar Paw's father Flint Sky, Morris Bird Yellowhead, offers Blunted some corrective advice and gives him some red leaves to utilize the next time he and his wife attempt. Soon after, a group of migrants walking through the jungle and appearing dejected interrupts them. Jaguar Paw is spoken to by one of them, a fisherman named Hiram Soto, who tells that his town was assaulted and that they are looking for a fresh start. Before moving on, they swap food, however Jaguar Paw is curious to learn more about what transpired. After his father puts an end to him, they go back to their village. Just before they return, Flint Sky tells his son that the refugees carried a fear that should not be allowed to fester in the town. Jaguar Paw enters his hut and greets his very pregnant wife Dahlia Hernandez, before admiring his young baby turtle's run, Carlos Emilio Baez. Blunted goes back to his wife, Skyflower, Iazo Hilarios, who was being frantically urged to hasten and deliver her grandchildren by her mother, Maria Isabel Deslego. Blunted flees screaming and holding his privates out of their hut shortly after they enter, then he sits down in a water trough. The leaves Flint Sky gave Blunted were intended to burn when brushed, and as he laughs, he collapses to the ground. Blunted yells at him but then joins in on the group's laughter. The story of how man used to receive gifts from the forest until the forest had nothing left to offer is told that evening by an elderly storyteller, Esperidion Acosta Cash. Jaguar Paw's attention is diverted by the music and dancing of the locals until 7 brings him back. The following morning, Jaguar Paw wakes up early from a dream and sees that the community is being approached by fire torches. Warriors emerge, setting homes on fire and capturing the residents. Jaguar Paw hides his wife and son in a deep cistern along with himself. He runs back to the hamlet to assist, killing a raider on the way. He hooks a rope to a nearby rock so that they may climb out again. The settlement is quickly overrun, though. Skyflower is compelled into a hut where she is most likely killed and raped as Blunted is restrained. Jaguar Paw tries to liberate his father, but a raider knocks him to the ground. Middle Eye, Gerardo Terracina, a raider whom Jaguar Paw nearly murdered, calls him almost. While Middle Eye holds him up and slashes his throat, Flint Sky encourages his son not to be scared. The youngsters of the hamlet are left alone with just the dead for company while all the other captives are tied up and dragged away while linked to each other on long poles. One of the captives, Snake Inc., Rodolfo Palacios, catches Jaguar Paw glancing in the direction of the cistern as the Halcane hunting group escorts the captives into the forest. Snake Inc. looks into things but misses 7 and Turtle's Run. The fearsome-appearing leader of the Halcanes, Zero Wolf, Raul Max Trujillo, reunites with his son Cut Rock, Ricardo Diaz Mendoza, who has suffered a bruised hit to the head that has caused his right eye to swell shut. He cuts the rope that is dangling into the hole, nevertheless. In order to relieve the blood pressure and restore his son's vision, Zero Wolf makes lines in his brow. A second raiding group that has apprehended the band of refugees observed the previous day joins up with the party. As the two groups are carried farther into the jungle, the children of the two tribes follow, and Jaguar Paw recognizes the fishermen. The kids are stopped by the water as they cross a roaring river. The oldest girl wails that she will take care of the kids now that they are hers. Zero Wolf hands his son a sizable dagger that he claims has slain numerous men that night while they are camped. Given the raid's success, it serves as a representation of Cut Rock's masculinity. If Blunted does not locate his Skyflower there, he laments and swears to take as many of his captives with him to hell. The following day, Cocoa Leaf, who had been badly hurt in the village raid, loses his footing while walking down a precarious route and hangs precariously over the edge. Middle Eye observes with curiosity and encourages them to regain their footing as Jaguar Paw and the others succeed in dragging him back into the road. After releasing Cocoa Leaf from his restraints, he pushes him over the edge of the cliff. Middle Eye claims the captive was just there as dead weight, but Zero Wolf chastises him for losing one of their prisoners. Even so, Middle Eye retreats from the conversation and swears not to act the same way again before approaching Jaguar Paw and calling him almost once more. The team travels through a deforested countryside and failed maize farms where residents lay dead, devastated by a plague, as they get closer to civilization. A young child who is ill and has sores on her hands and face approaches the gathering, but when Snake Ink firmly pushes her away, she glances abruptly blankly in Jaguar Paw's direction. She then turns to face Snake Ink and foretells their demise, warning of a man who will bring those who will cancel out the sky and scratch you out, bring a jaguar and the darkness of night, and who is reborn of muck and earth. She claims that this man is currently among them. She calls to them again and the party moves on. They arrive in a city where laborers toil in limestone quarries, turning the excess white and dousing the structures in quicklime. A laborer coughs up blood, and an elderly guy drools as he approaches the prisoners, pleading for assistance. A Halkane kicks him away and orders him to die in peace. Separated from the men, the captive women are sold into slavery. Blunted witnesses the rejection of his mother-in-law at auction because of her advanced age. She is given the freedom to explore and follows Blunted as far as she is able to go, confidently caressing his arm before collapsing helplessly against a pillar. The soldiers are led through a tunnel where they come across images of human sacrifices painted on the walls. Women dress in blue as they climb a step pyramid, painting their bodies blue. Victims' heads are flung down the stairs and gathered in baskets at the bottom. Jaguar observes as Pepe Suarez, the first captive, is killed by having his heart torn out and his head chopped. Before Jaguar Paw is placed on the altar, Curlnose suffers the same fate. He waits until the high priest, Fernando Hernandez, stops because of a solar eclipse, seemingly accepting his fate. The priest pleads for the sun to return as he informs the shouting audience that their deity is happy. Although the priest and the Mayan authorities are aware that the eclipse will eventually pass, they still take use of the cosmic occurrences to exert control over the populace and their adversaries. He then gives Zero Wolf the order to free the other prisoners. Jaguar Paw and the others are brought to an abandoned ball court, where they are told to sprint the entire length in pairs toward the forest at the finish with the cynical promise of freedom if they succeed. It is obvious that the hostages are to be utilized as targets when Cut Rock advances to the end of the court as a finisher. The first to flee are Blunted and Smoke Frog, but before Cut Rock can finish them off, Blunted is speared in the lower back and Smoke Frog is hit by a big stone. The fisherman and Jaguar Paw are then instructed to leave. Before running, Middle Eye yanks off Jaguar Paw's jewelry and hurls it into the ground as a foreboding sign. The fisherman is shot in the head by Snake Ink's arrow, and Jaguar Paw is stabbed through his side, falling close to Blunted, even though they manage to avoid the majority of the bullets. Blunted lunges and grabs Cut Rock by the leg, affording Jaguar Paw some time until Cut Rock can finish him off. Jaguar Paw tears off the arrowhead in his own body and stabs Cut Rock in the neck after Jaguar Paw kills Blunted with a single strike to the head. Jaguar Paw stands, takes the arrow shaft out of his side, and dashes into the woods as Cut Rock trips. In order to put his son to sleep for all time, Zero Wolf runs to him. Zero Wolf returns his blade and tucks his son's jewelry into his belt as his son passes away in his arms, and then he runs after Jaguar Paw, determined to exact revenge. The other Halkanes alight behind him. Jaguar Paw stumbles into a mass open grave containing the remains of thousands of sacrifice victims after running through a cornfield. He sprints through the decomposing corpses into the jungle, where he hides by climbing a tree while his wound is still bleeding. Under him, the Halkanes move by quickly. When they are gone, he turns to see a roaring black jaguar cub. He turns to look as he hears a roar coming from behind him and sees the dangerous mother jaguar. The Halkanes halt when they realize they have lost Jaguar Paw's track in the meanwhile. They retreat while keeping their eyes fixed on the trees after one of them detects blood on Middle Eye's shoulder. Speaking Wind, Marco Antonio Argueta, soon spots Jaguar Paw racing through the forest and chases after him. Speaking Wind is assaulted by the jaguar that was pursuing Jaguar Paw when their paths converge in a clearing. Prior to the others getting there and killing the jaguar, he is brutally mauled to death. Snake Ink reminds Drunkards 4, Bernardo Ruiz, of the weird child's prophecy and points out that it was predicted, whereas Drunkards 4 dislikes the terrible omen connected with killing the jaguar. In an effort to track down and kill Jaguar Paw, Zero Wolf stifles them all. The pursuit continues well into the morning. At one point, Drunkard's 4 approaches a tree that Jaguar Paw painted blue, but as he does so, an ASP bites him in the neck. He is advised to bloodlet by hanging Moss, Ariel Galvin, in order to die more quickly. Jaguar Paw is eventually caught up by the Hulkanes and is compelled to jump over a tall waterfall after being trapped. He lives and shouts to the Hulkanes from the riverbank that this is his forest and that his ancestors will carry on hunting there. Snake Inc. advises that Zero Wolf jump instead of climbing down, but Zero Wolf is impatient and stabs him. The first jumper, Buzzard Hook, Amel Rodrigo Mendoza, perishes after hitting his head on a submerged rock. The others are more successful and carry on their search. Jaguar Paw manages to escape after falling into a muddy sinkhole while fleeing. He stops and thinks for a moment before deciding he is not terrified and will not run any further. Jaguar Paw, smeared in black muck, approaches the Hulkanes as they approach and launches a live wasp hive at them, causing the wasps to attack. Jaguar Paw sprints toward the stream, where he discovers a poisonous arrow frog, and takes its venom off a few massive thorns. Thunder rumbles overhead as he circles around and hides in the reeds to wait for the Hulkanes. While this is going on, Seven throws a stalactite with a rope attached to it out of the cistern. She makes it halfway up the rock before it moves, sending her tumbling to the ground. Her water breaks due to the trauma even though she is slightly wounded. Jaguar Paw gathers a huge leaf and rolls it into a blowgun as the Hulkanes pass by the location where he is hiding. He launches darts at Hanging Moss, which has already been wounded by wasp stings. Middle Eye responds to Hanging Moss cries by turning around as he falls to the ground. Jaguar Paw and Middle Eye collide as they run at one another as each is eyeing the bludgeon that Hanging Moss dropped. As they get close to one another, Middle Eye swings his weapon, and Jaguar Paw only just manages to duck, taking a little knock to the head. Jaguar Paw grabs up Hanging Moss' hammer and rises to strike Middle Eye in the temple as he ducks beneath Middle Eye's assault. As Jaguar Paw strikes him under the chin to death, Middle Eye calls him almost for the final time. Jaguar Paw rushes to the cistern since it would soon fill with water when it suddenly starts to rain. Middle Eye's body is seen by Zero Wolf and the 2 remaining Hulkanes, Monkey Jaw, Carlos Ramos, and Ten Peccary, Richard Can, as they run into the woods. Zero Wolf, who is furious, outpaces the other 2 in his pursuit. When Jaguar Paw arrives at the cistern, Seven is in labor and yelling for him to leave as the cistern is filling with water. Jaguar Paw is nearly missed by an arrow, and as Zero Wolf comes in, he flees into the bush. Before continuing the pursuit, Monkey Jaw and Ten Peccary pause at the cistern to see Seven and Turtles run at the bottom. Jaguar Paw turns to face Zero Wolf, who fires an arrow into his shoulder, and pauses at a particular location in the forest that he is familiar with. Jaguar Paw waits and observes as Zero Wolf charges at him while drawing his dagger despite being hurt. When Zero Wolf sets off the taper trap without realizing there was a tripwire, he gets stabbed by the device's jagged spikes. As Ten Peccary and Monkey Jaw come, he passes away. Jaguar Paw passes out on the beach after being pursued by them. Once they'd caught up to him, they halt and stand there, gazing out over the water where a small fleet of Spanish ships are berthed. In small boats, soldiers and missionaries are rowing to shore. Jaguar Paw sprints back to the cistern as Monkey Jaw and Ten Peccary reach the coast while they are both mesmerized. He drags his family out of the cistern after discovering that Seven has just given birth. Jaguar Paw holds his newborn kid later, when the rain stops, and are followed by Seven and Turtles run. Seven inquires as to whether they ought to proceed to the Spanish ships as they turn to face them. Jaguar Paw advises them to seek out a fresh start in the wild rather.